Okay, we're going to turn our attention now to changing out this transmission fluid. The owner's manual recommends that it takes like an 80-90 gear oil that goes in the transmission. This also feeds the hydraulics because it's just one of those old tractors that the hydraulics for like the PTO and like the auxiliary hydraulics, which is the front end loader on this guy, uses the same oil, the same fluid, if you will, in the system, in the circuit. So right here is kind of like your this is your breather slash oil fill. It's just got this little rubber grommet that goes right there. And for some reason, the previous owner, again, I don't know how much to take his word, he said that this was actually another breather to take this guy off whenever you're filling it up. Down below where you drain it is actually a pretty inconvenient place. As you can see, it's draining right now, and if you look up in between where that drawbar is, that bent piece of metal, there are two drain holes, and they utilize these style drain plugs. I'll put that right there so you can kind of see it, but you can take those off with either a crescent, or I found out that a 14 millimeter actually does a pretty good job of taking them off. And like I said, there's two of them. There's basically two on each side in that drawbar there. And what you're looking at right here is the screen. Now this is the only filtering unit for the entire hydraulic transmission system. The manual says you don't have to drain the oil to clean this screen out, but as soon as I pulled it out, it's just started pouring goop all over the place. So I'm just kind of letting that sit. And where I'm positioned at right now is just behind the tire, which would be on the right hand side of the tractor here. Right, just you got the controls and the seat, and there's your PTO lever. So I'm going to let that drain a little bit more, and as soon as that screen and I get the oil out and everything, I'll try to get a better shot of it. Well, here's the screen. I think this put an end to our changing the oil for tonight. Some of the screen's there, some of it's not. Kind of feels like a fine plastic almost. Yeah, that stuff's probably all in the hydraulic system now. Yeah, not looking too good. I think I'm going to go ahead and see what I can get for a used one, or a replacement at least, because this is very well used. So there is an O-ring here at the base. It's recommended that you change that guy out if it's no good. So I think I'm going to end up giving those guys at Valley Power a call. They seem to come up anytime I start looking up parts for this tractor. It was so long that I had to take the brake linkage apart there to slide it all the way out. You can kind of see the arm right there. And to slide it out, I had to disengage it to get the slide out. Yeah, the manual did not say anything about that. But yeah, it's still leaking a little bit here. I think I'm just going to let it drip. After all, after I've had so much already on the floor, what's a little bit more going to hurt? I will say, after doing my oil analysis on the pavement, that it looks pretty good. It's not super dark. It still has some transparency in it. Didn't have any water in it, so I was pretty sure that the previous owner, the one thing he did do is he always stored it inside. So what ends up happening is this shift boot that you can see that is visibly cracked. When it rains, water will leak down inside there. So since I'll always make a point to keep it indoors, and we don't get that much rain anyway, I think this guy's going to be good to go. I don't think I'm going to worry about that shift boot, but we're going to change gears here and start working on something else. There's plenty more to do. I got a new seat for this guy, and then we have some mounts we have to make for some sway bar chains, some anti-sway bar chains. So we're going to make some brackets and get that stuff bolted up. So there's plenty more to do. It's just this transmission oil change is gonna just take a little bit longer. We're gonna go ahead and work on this battery disconnect switch here on my Mitsubishi Satoh tractor. When I had it brought over to my house, the key for the battery disconnect actually fell out. I thought it would be okay, but it fell out. If this ever happens to you and you have this style of battery disconnect switch, I believe there was one similar to this over at Napa. All you have to do is take a screwdriver and push the plunger in. It's just a set of spring-loaded contacts, and when you turn the little red flag, I believe it's clockwise, it actually drives the contacts in together and it starts. So if you ever need to, just go ahead and you won't zap yourself, I think, and you'll be able to start whatever it is that you need to start. It may be a two-man operation depending on where your disconnect switch is, but you can get it going if you're kind of like me and you go to get on your trailer and you go to start up the tractor and you realize that the little key is gone. What I am going to do is I'm replacing this guy. I'm going to replace this whole system right here, and I got a much better unit. It's not a key type to where you can pull the key out. It's just on and off, and that's the way I'm going to do it. And we're going to see if we can do dress it up just a little bit better. I've gone ahead and taken the battery out, so that gives us plenty of room to work with. So I'm going to go ahead and get this all disconnected, and I'm going to show you what we're going to be working with. So here's what we got so far. I went ahead and drilled 2 new holes in the battery holding plate so that we can mount our bracket underneath. And here is the bracket. The parts that I ended up using was the plates off of a piece of an old ammo can that I had been cutting up, and then the square bracket right here. That guy is from, I believe, some kind of old instrument gauge that attached inside the part of the dash. So I made it work. I did a couple tack welds on it, drilled a couple holes, and we're good to go. It's going to sit under here just like that. After I have that bolted on, I went ahead and started putting together my kill switch. It had these little tabs that you could break off. There's actually 2 more at the top and on the bottom, but I just broke off the 2 on the side. So this guy is pretty much ready to go. Once it's all set up, it's got a backing plate on it, so that sandwiches in there and seals up the contacts real good. I won't have to worry about it somehow magically arcing out. The hodgepodge of battery cables, I'd do something about them if the battery cables were bad, but I just kind of made it worse. Made it work. Not worse. I hope I didn't make it worse. The battery cutoff switch is done. It's all good to go. One neat thing about this battery cutoff switch is that these letters, the on and then that arrow and the off, they glow in the dark. I found that out whenever I was turning out the lights the other night. But I got that all wired up. I ended up getting a new battery cable for the battery side of this switch. I picked up a 25-incher, and in the end I probably should have just gone ahead with a 20-incher because I still had a little extra play, but it's going to work just fine. I also picked up a new battery hold-down bracket. The top post, the top of the battery bracket, it was too wide because this battery is a little thin, so I ended up just making some out of what I believe is some old chain link fence material, little brackets that kind of go there next to the pole. I say that based on absolutely nothing except that it is zinc plated, and I'm not sure where I found it, but cut it off, drilled some holes, it's good to go. This is all finished. As you know, most battery cutoffs, they'll start off at the battery, they come down here, and it keeps you from starting the engine. And if you follow that red lead, it goes up to the starter solenoid there that's tucked away next to the block. Now I know this probably doesn't look too good. It is pretty basic and it's for tractor, but I do think that it's quite a bit of an improvement then from what I believe was the old bracket was a bolt that someone heated up, hammered flat. So I think I'm doing better than that. At least I didn't have to put as much work into it as the last guy did. But anyway, I think now we're going to go ahead and work on my anti-sway chains for my 3-point. So let's see what we can make up. I had to pick some up because, like usual, I did not have any when I picked up the tractor. It did have points for mounting them. Unfortunately, I don't know where they mount on the back of the tractor. I went to the hardware store and picked up some metric fine thread M12 bolts, and by fine thread it's like 1.25 pitch for the threads. Luckily AutoZone had them, and we're going to try to make these work. These are the only ones they had, and of course they are way too long for the application. Yeah, that's about how much I'm going to get out of that. So we're going to have to shorten those up. As far as the brackets that we need to make, I went ahead and got some already mocked up, and this is like 2-inch angle iron, 1/4-inch thick, and I went ahead and got everything kind of mocked up for where the chain's going to hook up, but we still need to go ahead and drill the holes to make these guys work. So I'm going to do some measurements, I'm going to do some more drilling. Hopefully the everything goes well. Not really good at math, so hopefully these things don't go all culo wongo on me. I wanted to go ahead and share with you guys the process that I do to cut down these bolts. So the first thing I do is I kind of mocked it up with what I was going to put in. It's going to have that nut. It's kind of a slight depth gauge of how far in the tractor it's going to go. I've been putting them in the vise, chalking them up, and then cutting them down with my little cutoff tool from Harbor Freight. After that, I'll go ahead and put them on the grinder here and get them all nice and level, because usually I can't make a straight cut to save my life. The bolt is the nut is an important part of this, because once I'm done, I'll go ahead and unscrew it, and it kind of chases out the threads a little bit. I put the nut back on, take it over back to the grinder. I do a grind on at about a 45-degree angle, and then I put it in the wire wheel to help clean up those threads. The final process is to go ahead and just see how well that nut comes off the bolt. If it turns well, then you're pretty good. If you're wondering what happens if you run without chains, you end up with this. See that nice little curve there? These were straight until I hooked up my trailer to tow some things around. And I'm going to show you right here is whenever this comes all the way over, as in my 3-point, my hitch right here, when that comes over, you can see that lifting up on that arm. I had it at one point so bad that it was actually just flipping on the tire. And I was talking to a couple other guys on the tractor sites, and they said they actually have chunks missing out of their tires because of the way their hitches swing around. So the other way is even worse. Once you start moving that, let's see, how was I getting it? And it causes a lot of stress on your lifting arms. If you watch those arms, especially right there where they connect, let's see if I can get it. Yeah, right there. See that? I'm pretty sure that play isn't supposed to be happening. And you can see a little bit of seepage. So hopefully I didn't hurt anything. Yeah, I need to get these things on. So I'm learning a hard lesson at this tractoring gig. I also want to point out that I am absolutely no authority on doing any of this. This is my first tractor, and I probably should have bought something that was in a little more set up. My brackets are done. I actually got pretty lucky, and my measurements were, for the most part, on point. One thing I did have to do is I had to grind just a little bit off this side right here to kind of bring them in a little bit. And I had to do that on both sides, so at least I'm consistent. However, these sway bar chains, as they sit right now, don't do anything. So they're adjusted in as far as they'll go. So I think what I'm going to go ahead and do is cut off this link right here and move this shackle and clevis over here like we planned. Okay, I got the links cut off, which shortened up the chains. I say we give this thing a little whirl, see how it does. Oh yeah, that's much better.